Brenda, an interior design professional at CRSA in Salt Lake City, Utah. Today we're going to be talking to her about her unique opportunity working on temples for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. How did you approach the design process given the sacred nature of temples?
Very carefully. It's a very interesting process, but we work very closely with the church so that we know what it is their vision is and what they would like to see in the design. And that's how we approach it.
Awesome. Can you explain the significance of any design elements that were specifically chosen to resonate with LDS teachings and traditions?
You know, I think it's different for every single patron that goes into the temple and what they see. We specifically try to look at, the important parts of the temple and bring some of those out, but I think that it is different for every single person. So if I were to say, yes, we did that in this certain area, most people probably wouldn't notice.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how we want it.
Subtle.
We do. We want it to be subtle because each person has their own experience when they enter these sacred buildings, and that's the way we like to keep it.
Cool.
Yeah.
How do you ensure that temples' interior design invite feelings of reverence and spirituality?
What we do when we do a temple is we don't want any one element to hold so much importance that it covers over other things. A lot of times in interior design, they talk about a focal point. We honestly try and not have a focal point because we want all of the furnishings and all of the surrounding finishes to work together to make it a very peaceful and happy experience. So we don't want any one thing to stand out too much.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so this question kind of goes along with the last one, but were there any specific materials or colors you chose that hold significant meaning in the LDS community?
Well, it's funny because you would think that white is really an important color, especially for a temple.
Yeah.
Honestly, we don't use very much white at all.
Interesting.
Yes. So very interesting. That's the first thing that came to my mind when you asked that question. So I think that would probably be my answer. We just, very seldom do we try and, tie things to certain things because again, like I said earlier, mentioned earlier, the experience for each patron is so much different.
So how are colors chosen then? If you don't use a lot of white, is there a significance in the colors that are picked for temples?
We really try and do that to the area of where the temple is. And we really try to look at the culture and bring those special things in because that is the temple that belongs to that area. And a lot of work is done to make sure that we look at precedents to the surrounding area. We look at buildings in the surrounding area and especially colors.
Wow.
And we try and bring those in so that the people that are there worshiping in that area feel comfortable, and it just, gives them another chance to be happy that they're in that area. We try and bring that into the temple.
That's amazing.
That's a great question.
So temples often have various rooms with different functions, such as baptismal fonts, celestial rooms, and sealing rooms. How did you differentiate between those different spaces while maintaining like a cohesive design?
Well, we do it by mainly keeping the same color scheme throughout. That's one of our most important things that we try to do. But we also elevate the finishes as you move up in the ordinances of the temple. So oftentimes we start out a little bit more bold or a little bit darker, and then we go maybe a little bit lighter as we progress.
So the colors in the rooms would, interesting.
Yes.
So how did you collaborate with church leaders or representatives to ensure that designs met their expectations and requirements?
Often. We have weekly meetings. As a consultant, I meet with the team over at the church office building, and then we also have what we call OAC meetings once construction is underway with contractors and the owner. And so it's often and very in-depth.
Do they often have things for you to change or adjust?
Oh, yes. Yes, that happens. Just the nature of our business. When you're doing projects as long as these are, sometimes they're many years, you will make selections early on that are discontinued or they're unavailable or something, and we often have to do that. And that's just part of the business.
No, that makes sense. Yeah. What challenges did you face during these projects, and how do you overcome them?
There's often a lot of challenges that come up, but surprisingly, we just start looking at it a different way. Sometimes we even involve, anybody who's a particular expert.
Okay.
That's the word I want. And then we just kind of collaborate and come up with ways to fix the problem.
So often it's teamwork.
Teamwork is a big one.
Okay.
Yeah. There's no one that can do this by themselves. No one.
Yeah.
In fact, I talked to a contractor once and he goes, I can't do this by myself, so I need help. So I am good at keeping a good team.
That's good.
Yeah.
How do you ensure that materials and design elements chosen would stand the test of time, both in terms of durability and timeless appeal?
Durability is a really important thing. When you think about a temple, there are rooms in a temple that are used all day long, every day.
Yes.
Except for a few days of the week. And so durability is really important. But at the same time, it's very interesting kind of juxtaposition because being that it's a temple, it's almost a residential feel. And so we have to have the beauty and the luxury of residential, but yet be able to pull it off in a commercial grade. So there are tricks to that, but we try and do it.
So what are some of those tricks?
Oftentimes we have to have fabrics that don't meet our durability standards rewoven with different materials, so that they are then able to withstand the durability.
That makes sense.
So that works.
In what ways did you integrate the temple's surroundings or local culture into the interior design while staying true to the global nature of the faith? Yeah,
and we always bring in the local feel of wherever we're doing a temple, which is really, really important to the people that are going to be patrons there. And I don't think of the finishes as being really, that's not the part of the temple, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's only a vehicle to get people to be able to enjoy the space and be able to have those feelings. And so I guess it's hard to explain, but that's important, is that it's just very soothing, it's very nice, and that it fits within,
the environment
that it's in.
Amazing. Okay, now that some of these projects are complete, what do you hope members of the community will feel or experience when they enter the temple?
Peace. That's my main thing. And I think that we do strive when we're doing a project to make sure that everything is really blends and really works together, so that they don't go in and go, oh, why is that there? Or, what's that over there?
Yeah.
We want it just to be a really peaceful, wonderful experience, and also welcoming. We want people to feel very, very welcome there.
Have you had any experiences personally, or that you've heard from other people, where they've felt that because of maybe the environment that you were able to create?
I would say that has happened. Yes.
Do you have any stories that you could share?
Let me think on that.
Okay.
Ask me that again.
Okay, we'll come back.
Yeah.
Were there any particular historical or scriptural references you incorporated into any of your temple designs?
Actually, there is. We happen to be working on a project right now. There is a verse in Isaiah 54 that talks about windows of agates. We actually have agates in our art glass windows. Wow. And so that to me is a really big one. That's one of my favorite chapters in all of Scripture, but one of my favorite verses as well.
I'm sure it looks really beautiful.
I just went yesterday and looked at it.
Aw, pretty.
It's looking good. Yeah, really nice.
Okay, how did you address any technical requirements like lighting and acoustics while ensuring that they didn't distract from the spiritual ambiance?
Again, you have to be really careful about the design choices that you make. And what we try to do is we try and bring in the motif for the temple in many different places so that it's really cohesive. And A lot of times there are things that you can do on acoustic. Say there's a type of ceiling that's acoustic that looks just like a gyp ceiling, but it's not a gyp ceiling, it's acoustic.
Huh.
And so we can bring in things like that that other people would have no idea about, but that a lot of care and everything goes into it because acoustics are a big part of this building. So that's a good question.
Temples are often visited by members from various age groups. How did you ensure accessibility and comfort for everyone, including the elderly and those with disabilities?
Well, the first thing we do is we make sure that our buildings all meet ADA requirements, which is the Americans with Disabilities Act. The nice thing about that is it just gives ample room for everybody, whether they're disabled or not. We try and make sure that we've got adequate clearances on doorways.
Nice.
We also think a lot about furniture and how, elderly have a tougher time, so it's much more better. Well, okay, let me fix that. It's just a better way to do a chair to have arms so that they can stand up easier.
Yes.
So we think about all of those things when we're designing and when we're making selections for furniture.
That's very detail-oriented.
It's very much so.
How did your previous design experiences prepare you for this unique project or these unique projects? And what did you learn from designing a sacred space like the temple?
Well, I think everything that I've done in my career has brought me to this point. The one thing that I have learned is the more that I learn, the more I find out I don't know, which is, I think, just the way that life is.
Yeah. The more you know, the more you don't know.
Yep, it's so true. And I'm always learning, which is great. But I've also noticed, and it's funny because I've had coworkers talk to me about different meetings on different projects. We start our meetings with prayer.
That's amazing.
Even our OAC meetings, we have prayer.
I love that.
And there's a difference, and it really makes a difference. And we need that help.
Yeah.
We're not doing our stuff. We're trying to,
do the Lord's work.
Do this for the Lord, and makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
How do you ensure that interior design evolving and adapting over time to cater the needs of future members while retaining the core spiritual essence?
Okay. We actually do a lot of what we call R&I work, which is remodel and improvement for temples that we work on. Okay. So it had an original design, and then over time things need to be replaced, they need to be fixed and worked on. And we do try to stay true to that original design concept, just because we understand what it takes to come up with it when you're doing a new temple. And it's a process, and it's important. And so we do try to, come up with and stick to that core design that was originally. But things do wear out, and things do have to be replaced over time. So it's something that we do.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go back to that question we asked earlier about stories. Do you have any stories or experiences that you could share about designing temples, or maybe having someone coming to talk to you about an experience they had with your designs?
Okay. I actually do have a couple. I had some people that went to an open house, and it was a project that I had worked on for probably over 5 years.
Wow.
So it was it had a lot of my heart.
A lot of work.
In there.
Yeah.
They just mentioned the impact that it had on them when they went in, and they could feel that the design really came together just to glorify the Lord and to bring that peace and that feeling that you are welcome here, and that we want this to be a beautiful place, and it's for you. It's for the patron, and when they said that, that made it, really, really special.
That's amazing.
So it's a gift to be allowed to do this kind of work. It really is.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and experiences with us today. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. If you'd like to learn more about temples or the interior design program at Ensign College, make sure to click the links in the description.